Hi everyone, Jay Egersdorff here, previewing game week 12 of the Fantasy Premier League. Format to the video this week, pretty standard stuff, so I'm going to chat about game week 11, move on to chatting about game week 12. We're going to discuss some of the left field options for players for the next game week, and FPL Donut, and the captaincy options, which I think everybody will agree is pretty straightforward this week, but we'll come to that a bit later. So, pretty good game week for me last time round, game week 11. I got 80 points. So that's put me just outside the top 165k. So it's a pretty steady progression in the last 5 game weeks. That's 5 green arrows in a row, which is brilliant, and it's put me up about 700,000 or 800,000 places from where I was. So it goes to show that a bit of patience, a bit of consistency, and some good decisions will get you going in the right direction. So everything to play for now, with about a quarter or a third of the season behind us. So the guys doing the damage: Richarlison, Arnautovic, Wilson, Aguero captain, all delivered for me. So all in all, pretty good game week. I carried the transfer as well, so that gives me 2 transfers potentially if needed this week, or I could carry a transfer till after the international break, and again that gives me options. So feels pretty good. Pretty pleased with that turnaround considering where I was. So game week 12, quite a few talking points that I'm going to go through today. So we've got the Salah v Mane conundrum. We've got the Manchester derby. We've got people asking me questions about Bournemouth. So their fixtures are just about to turn. So what do we do with Bournemouth people? I'm also going to talk about a problem that I've spotted on the horizon, which looks like quite a tricky one, which is some rotation that I think is going to come up. So I'll come to all those points. And I think let's start with Salah, because I think if you have him this week, you've got to captain him. And if you don't have him like me, you probably need to captain Mane, I think, as a second choice. Part of the reason I did carry that transfer last time round was to give myself the opportunity, if required, to make that switch to Salah. And looking at it now, I didn't watch Liverpool midweek, but I have read a couple of match reports, and by all accounts it sounds like they didn't play fantastically well. What I found was trying to... It seems pointless to me, having already got Mane, to switch him out for Salah. I think the only option, if you are a Mane owner like me, is to complement Mane with Salah for this Fulham game. I think the other challenge is looking beyond Fulham. Liverpool's fixtures aren't terrible, but I don't think that they're fantastic. I think, if memory serves, they have Watford away. I know they've got Everton at home, and then maybe Bournemouth away. They're not terrible fixtures. They're not amazing. You know, the Merseyside derby. You know, Everton we'd like to think are a slightly better force under Silva, so we're not too sure how that one will go. Watford and Bournemouth, of course, are doing great and are on really good form. And that therefore means that to get Salah just for this game week, for me, that would be a case of not learning your lesson in light of the Harry Kane and the Cardiff incident in, was it game week 6 or 7? The other problem is, to get him, it means I'd have to find a space for him in the midfield. So who's under threat in the midfield? Well, I've got Richarlison. I don't want to get rid of him. He looks good. Maddison, so yeah, the jury's out on that guy. Mane, who I've already said I won't want to get rid of, and Hazard, and a 4.4 Holberg enabler. So you're looking at that and you're thinking, well, it's probably going to be Maddison who gets the chop. How do I free up funds? Well, the answer is you disrupt your defence, where I've got Mendy, Alonso and Robertson. Well, I don't want to take out any of those guys. And then it lands on Aguero or Hazard. Well, I don't want to take out either of those two either. So it keeps coming back to the same point, which is, it seems to me that if you don't have Salah, the risk isn't as much as if you do have him, because if you do have him, and I've talked about this in other videos, and it's part of the logic behind me not having him and taking him out as part of my... It wasn't wildcard, was it? I took him out around game week 4 or 5. But the point I'm making is that it's a bigger risk to have Salah and him not deliver and him blank than it is to not have him and worry about him going mad and getting loads of points. Like, sure, there's an element of doubt and risk, isn't there, that Liverpool could put 5 past Fulham and he scores them all. As a non-Salah owner, that is pretty scary. But what's the probability of that? I don't know. 2 out of 10? So there's probably 20% likelihood something like that could happen. If he did that, would it mean like maybe Mane might assist them all and get some points as well? Kind of as we saw in the Cardiff match where they both came out with equal scores. I did a bit of homework on it, a bit of research. If you look at the top 6 midfielders for points per game, Salah's points per game is 6.1. If you take an average of the top 6, in which Salah sits just below, the average is 7.12. The best is Raheem Sterling at 8.6. So the point I'm making there is Salah is the most expensive. So logically, he needs to at worst outperform the average, which he isn't doing. He's a point behind the average, and he's a 1.5 per game behind the best player, which is Sterling. Sterling is 2 million cheaper. As a percentage, what's that? 11 million versus 13. You're looking at, without doing maths brilliantly, let's say it's between 15 and 20%. So again, you'd probably want that 15% extra points on top of to represent the value, the extra value that Salah is costing you compared to the top form midfielder. So you're therefore looking at, really, compared to the rest of the market and the alternatives that you could have, you really want Salah to be scoring 9 roughly points a week, 8 or 9 points, to actually justify having him. So as a non-owner, that means you've almost got this kind of Salah threshold, which unless he's delivering over that amount of points every week, it's not really hurting you as much. Because the other thing you've got as well that covers you, and I talked about this, I did a video last week with John T. Hi John T. Over at FF Scout, did a meet the manager video. You've also got as cover your alternative player that you've used the 3 million balance or the in the Sterling case 2 million balance to improve somebody else. So Salah people might have Salah captain plus another circa 5 million. You or myself as a Mane owner might have Mane plus say Richarlison. So you kind of got a bit of cover, and therefore the risk is, in a funny way, all on the Salah owners for this guy to deliver. If he doesn't deliver, the rest of your team is weakened compared to people who don't have him, who may be able to scoop up the points to compete with him elsewhere. I think the final point on Salah, the other thing that really puts me off is, as a non-owner, he started the season at 13 million, where you're paying that fee and you are looking for the player that was scoring however many goals, 300 FPL points last season. That, to me, represents 13 million. Well, his price went down, and now his price has gone back up slightly, back to the original 13 million price. So in terms of value, you're not even nicking like a 0.1 or a 0.2 as a little bit of value to put in your team elsewhere. You're back to paying a premium price as somebody who... you're paying a premium price for someone who's not delivering a premium level of returns, in my opinion. So again, that's another reason I think to perhaps not get too excited about Salah at the moment, sadly. So I hope that sort of clears that one up a little. Moving on to the Manchester derby. So what worries me a little bit here, and I watched United last night, and I thought they did okay, and they got a good win against Juve, and of course City steamrolled Shakhtar, so no surprise there really. But having watched United against Bournemouth last week, what worries me is that they are starting matches very, very slowly. There's often a mistake, or if anyone saw that Bournemouth game, Bournemouth really could have been 3 or 4 up in the first half an hour, and you contrast that with Man City, who are very fast starters. So 3-0 up very quickly against Southampton, a couple of goals to the good very quickly last night against Shakhtar. These guys really get out the blocks quickly, and that to me feels like quite a scary combination. If I was a Man United fan, I think everybody would agree that Jose is probably going to go there and try and frustrate City, try and park the bus, as we call it. But you have got to worry that if they continue this run of poor starts to matches, City could really benefit, and some of their attackers are on really great form, Sterling, Aguero, Silva, etc. Which kind of brings me on to the Bournemouth bit. And what I wanted to say about Man City, and it goes back to my reluctance to lose Aguero at the minute, if I was to look at bringing Salah in. City have scored 33 goals in the Premier League. Liverpool have scored 21. And just to bring in that little bit of Bournemouth contrast, which again backs up the Liverpool thing a little, Bournemouth have scored 20. So they've only scored one less than Liverpool, and everybody waxes lyrical about how great Liverpool's attack is. So what I really, really like about Bournemouth, and what people have been asking me, is the fixtures are going to turn. Do we get rid of Wilson and Fraser? And me as a Wilson owner, I just think he's brilliant FPL value. Not only is he is he the top or second best striker on the game for points at the moment, but FPL is simple. The guy plays every week, and he's only missed 90 minutes once in that really weird Burnley game where they lost 4-0, but it wasn't really a 4-0 game. It was quite close, and Burnley got a couple of late ones. I just think to get rid of somebody like him and maybe Fraser, who's equally as important to that Bournemouth team. I know they've got City away, but we saw in that United game how great they are at home. This is a team that still plays in a really little stadium. I think they've got maybe about 15,000 capacity. So in the age of Galacticos, in the age of Man City and all their money, in the age of Chelsea and all their money, and Liverpool and big stadium expansions and multi-million-pound transfers, here we've got a little team that is representing the essence of why I feel the majority of people fall in love with football, which is teamwork, simplicity, passion, hard work. I watched that Bournemouth match on Saturday, and I'm sat on my sofa, and in the build-up to Wilson's goal, which is after about 15 minutes, I don't know if anybody watched the game noticed, Bournemouth had very steady possession of the ball, and there was a loose pass that was going to run out for a throw-in on about the halfway line, and Ryan Fraser legged it, really sprinted back and slid in and just kept the ball alive and knocked it back to a defender so they could continue the move. And I found myself sitting there and just saying, wow, this team works so hard, their ethics and their desire is fantastic. So I think you've got that combined with players that you know are going to be there on the pitch every week, combined with value for money. So in terms of FPL, what more do you want? Why even contemplate getting rid of these people? You can just leave them there, and on current form, they're doing brilliantly. So for me, unless something hugely changes or somebody like Wilson is taking up a space of somebody else who emerges that is almost an essential player, for me, Bournemouth players are a massive stick at the minute. Final thing I said I was going to chat about game week 12. Has anyone spotted the incredible fixture list that is coming up after game week 12, after the international break? So we talk about the Christmas period being the busy time, so from like the 22nd of December till the 3rd of Jan. But you look at that fixture list, a lot of these, particularly the top teams, play Saturday and then midweek, Saturday, midweek, right from the week commencing, what will it be, 20 whatever it is of November, after the international break, right up until Christmas. So it's kind of like this Christmas compact fixture list has been spread out but made even more compact with more games. And what also worries me a little about that is we have Spurs, Man United, Liverpool and City are nearly there in the Champions League, aren't they? But nobody's through to the next round. These Champions League games, you'd hope they might be able to just rest people and rotate them, but there's still everything to play for. The other midweek is the Carabao Cup quarters, and the fixtures haven't fallen great. Arsenal and Spurs play each other, so you'd probably I'd imagine people like Kane and Aubameyang and Ozil will be involved in that match. I don't think they'll both put out the reserves. So you've got a hell of a lot of rotation risk there. So again, it backs up what I've spoken about in other videos and what I think is dead important. If you haven't got a subs bench, players that are playing regularly, now is the time to get one and really factor in that rotation. So again, backs up that Bournemouth point. People ask, do I get Sterling at the minute? Do I get Mane? Do I get Aguero? Do I get Aubameyang? Whoever. The facts are all these players are going to get rotated at some point and we can't predict it. But what we have to do is pick the ones that we feel that when they're on the pitch, they're going to get the best points return, and be safe in the knowledge that we've got some bench players that are going to cover us, because what we can do is set up our teams to give ourselves the best probability of getting points, subject to those players being on the pitch. The bit we can't control is whether they're going to be on the pitch or not, which again, going back to that Bournemouth point, is why I really like players like Callum Wilson. So, let's see, is that covered game week 12? Yeah, I think that's covered everything I wanted to chat about there. So, a couple of other bits. So, left field options, Schindler, yes, well done Schindler. Didn't realise he'd go that well, but I was pretty pleased that I called that one. So thanks everybody for your nice tweets that I got this week, giving me a pat on the back for that one. And fair play if anybody put him in, that's a pretty good move. But totally called it. Wet, cold night, dire game, which I didn't watch fortunately, but I understand it wasn't a very good match. And the guy's gone and got, did he get double figures? He got 11 I think, so that's pretty good. So this week, left field options, defender, midfielder, attacker. I have gone for Ben Chilwell. And actually, I was thinking about this last night and I've not researched it, so maybe you can tell me. I've gone for Ben because Leicester have a good fixture list, and given the terrible situation, which I don't want to dwell about and talk about because it is bloody awful, but as a motivator in sport, I think that home game that they have this weekend, these guys are going to be really charged. We saw them against the Cardiff match. They credit to them, really put on a fitting tribute in their performance. So I think they're going to be even more motivated. So Chilwell I like, is attacking left back. He represents good value. We're in the age this season when everybody wants these attacking Mendy's and Alonso's, and I talked about Dean last week at Everton being a valuable option. Chilwell falls into that bracket as well. What I thought about last night that annoyingly I've not prepped, so ignore this if it's rubbish, but look at it if it's not good. I did notice, sadly, an injury to Daniel Armatri, and I did notice on Match of the Day, my old friend, who I've always liked since he was on loan a long time ago at Blackburn. We had him on a season-long loan, and he was great then, and I think he's a great, honest little player. Danny Simpson, I noticed, was on the pitch, so I was thinking last night, did he play right back on Saturday, or did he come off the bench? If he played, I reckon he'll be down in the bargain basement, 4.1 or 4.2 or something like that. So maybe worth investigation for that one. If he came on for 10 minutes at the end, ignore what I've just said there. Midfielder, I'm going to go with this guy. I had my list of candidates for people. If I was going to get Salah in, I was probably going to have to bump up maybe Mane or maybe Hazard. And if I wanted to keep Aguero, downgrade Maddison. So I was looking at bargain basement people, and someone who I did like, and the only problem is Huddersfield is another Huddersfield guy. Huddersfield don't score many goals, but this guy really lit the Championship on fire a few years ago, and he had a couple of injuries, and he's never quite broken through in the Premier League, but he's one of these, he reminds me a bit of James Maddison, and it's Alex Pritchard at Huddersfield. We talked about the good fixtures. He's 4.8. He's a name that I haven't heard mentioned when people are talking about Jacob Murphy and Kennedy and bargains in the midfield. What I'm not saying here is get excited about Huddersfield potential attacker. What I am saying is have a look, and I don't know, maybe you watched the game on Monday and this guy caught your eye, but he's somebody that might help you out if you need a bargain. And another player, moving on to the attack, we talked about the problem this season with a lack of forward options, bargain forward options. I do like Jimenez. I do worry a bit about success and the Deeney thing. I talked about that last week, Deeney potentially winning back his place. But I do think, although they do look pretty hopeless, they have got a couple of good games, and this guy takes the penalties. He's on a little bit of form. If you do need a bargain striker, a couple of good fixtures coming up for Danny Ings, 5.5. Southampton are at home this week. They need to start winning. They need to start scoring. He, if anyone, is going to be the guy to help them get there. So if you do need a bargain and maybe you can't quite get to Jimenez and you're a bit worried about success is game time, maybe have a look at Ings. Back to the Bournemouth scenario. What we like about Ings is he's nailed on to play, so you've got a guaranteed starter. Last two things then, donut and captain. Let's do captain first this week. So it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? It's going to be a Liverpool, Mane, Salah if you've got him, Mane if you're crossing your fingers like me that he can keep pace with Salah. If you don't have those guys, I think you've probably got to look Hazard, subject to him not getting crocked in the match tonight. So pretty straightforward this week. And donut of the week, I really feel for you guys who've got him, because he was on my watch list. He started the season on absolute fire. Sadly, his value has gone from 7 to 6.7 in the last couple of weeks. He's returned 2 1-pointers in consecutive game weeks, and he's not scored for about the last 4 or 5 game weeks, and that's our old friend Mitrovic. So, sorry Mitrovic, but you are donut of the week. Okay, so hope that was useful, hope that was valuable. Couple of shout outs as ever. So of course, big shout out to you guys, thanks for tuning in, and great to chat to you on Twitter and social media and stuff. But a big shout out to my Patreon guys. Thank you for your support. The next masterclass video is being written as we speak, and that is going to be going live probably during the international break. Hey to all the new people that have subscribed in the last couple of weeks. It's great to have you on board. And thank you all for tuning in. Have a great game week 12, and I will see you on the other side of the international break. Cheers.